All right. So, welcome everybody to this brief webinar on this beautiful Friday afternoon for us here in Italy. Yeah, I'm excited to show all of you guys a little bit more about one of our, I feel like most undervalued features within MPskin, which are sweep actions. So let me go ahead and share my screen to you guys. Right. So, what are sweep actions? Sweep actions in themselves are a pretty basic concept. It is basically a functionality that allows you to enter any type of click action onto a specific scan point. So as you can see here, on the floor plan, you see an overview of all the different scan points, and then you're able to simply select them and add different types of click actions to them. Now, this could be a text, this could be a photo, this could be a PDF or a video, an external link, or with the HTML option, it could even be any kind of code that you implement onto the sweep action. And with this feature, there's a ton of different possibilities and different ways to make your tours more interactive. The key here is to allow content to be displayed without the user having to click on a specific item in order for the content to pop up. Because as soon as they navigate onto the specific scan point, the action will start. Now, I've brought a couple of examples for you. Here we see what the sweep actions look like in the backend. So this is the MPskin backend for those that aren't yet familiar with it. And here in the Sweep Actions tab is where we see an overview of the floor plan for all the different floors inside the tour. And here we're able to simply add a sweep action by simply clicking on them. So in this first example that I'm going to be showing, I've added a click action onto the sweep point that starts a virtual staging object. And in this particular example, the virtual staging object is actually a green screen recording of a woman that's going to greet us right in the tour. Here we see the different options that we get for sweep action. So you can see, apart from the usual ones, such as text, photo, gallery, video, audio, and so on, we also have an additional option of starting a click action that is added to either a tag or a virtual staging object. Now, to make it a little bit easier to envision, I'm going to go ahead and show you what they actually look like once they're in action. So this is the demo tour that I've prepared, and I've posted a clip on in the user group as well. And as we navigate inside the model, we're going to be able to see we have the virtual staging object here, and the click action has been laid on a sweep point that's somewhere here in this area. So as I navigate towards it, the sweep action will start the video.
Immerse yourself in the world of the Middle Ages and enjoy unforgettable moments at Hatterberg Castle. Experience the fascinating history of the Hatterberg Castle high above Salern and enjoy the breathtaking view of the South Tyrolean lowlands.
All right. So now we can navigate through the model and activate the different types of sweep actions. The next sweep action I've added to this tour is a video. Now here, to make it a little bit easier for the user to not be, as surprised when the action actually starts, I've added a virtual staging icon here on top of the sweep point to kind of indicate to the user that there's going to be something happening as soon as they move on to this sweep point. So here we have a video embedded that presents this particular location, from the skies above. So it gives a little bit more insight. So this will be just another example for a standard type of sweep action. And now as we navigate through the tour, this is of course also possible for audio files. And this is probably one of the most popular use cases for such a click action, because by adding audio files as sweep actions, you can actually implement somewhat of an automatic audio guide. So in the case of this tour, which is half, I would say, a gastronomical enterprise and half just a cultural one. So here in this case, once we navigate onto this sweep point, we will have the audio action starting.
The castle changed hands several times over the centuries. First acquired by the Counts of Tyrol, Salerno Castle passed to Meinhard II of Gorizia, Tyrol in 1284. In the 14th century, it came under Habsburg ownership. Maximilian I commissioned expansions and renovations in 1514. However, just a few decades later, Salerno Castle lost its strategic importance and fell into disrepair.
So this will be the example of an audio sweep action. Once again, I've indicated it to the user by putting this icon on it, but that's not a necessity. So that's only something that I've decided to implement to make it just a little bit easier for the user to see what's happening. Here we also see our web wayfinder in action. So let's head back to the original site. By the way, there's another setting for sweep actions. I believe it is active for this particular one. So you can choose for each sweep action whether you want it to become active just once as a single action, or whether you want it to be active every single time that the user navigates onto the sweep.
Immerse yourself in the world of the Middle Ages and enjoy unforgettable moments.
All right, so let's have a look at some of the other sweep actions inside this tour. So of course, the same principle, once again, can work for any type of sweep action. Here in this tour, we have a few additional examples of virtual staging items inside to just make it a little bit more interesting. And as we navigate toward the next sweep action, we will see that you can also include external links as a sweep action. In this case, I've simply added the menu of this venue to this sweep action. It is embedded as an external link. And by having these external link embeds, they can be used for just about anything that you like. So of course, you can freely navigate inside the pop-up that's visible here. So this is just the website that belongs to this venue. But it could also be something like, for example, a newsletter sign-up form or some other kind of sign-up form that you would want to collect data from the user. So it can really be anything that is available via an external link. And yeah, this is I would say the most basic use of sweep actions. You simply take one of the sweep points and you add any kind of content that you like to them. But of course, those are, I would say, the basic use cases, but there's so much more we can do with these types of virtual staging, or with these types of sweep actions. So let's have a look at some other use cases. Let me enable the audio for you. So what I've done in this tour is, as the user navigates upwards of these stairs, I've placed a click action, first of all, on the sweep point that's here on these stairs to help the user jump up to the next point that has another sweep action added to it. We can see this here. So we've got the backend here again. And we can see there's actually two sweep actions. So there's one here. This one is just meant to move the user to the next scan point. And the second one actually starts the video or the audio that has been added to this virtual staging presenter, the avatar woman. The reason I've done it like this and I've linked those two together is because if the user simply navigated onto this point and the sweep action started, they will likely not be facing towards the avatar. They will be facing just anywhere inside the tour. So in order for me to get the result that I'm looking for, I've added two sweep actions. One that gets the angle right, so I'm sure that the user lands on the correct perspective. And then the second one that actually starts the video, or in this case, the audio file. So let's have a try as we navigate up here.
Hello and welcome to Casal Aldacio Nature Lodge. Feel free to explore all 4 of our apartments.
So again, this is a more advanced example because I've connected 2 different types of sweep actions to another. So once again, by connecting the 2, it gives us even more options than we were previously aware of. Of course, this is just a very basic example of an avatar. It would be even nicer to have the real owner of the venue there, for example. All these things are possible and options. And to go to a little bit more of an extreme example of the things you could do with sweep actions, I'm going to showcase a tour I've made for last year's Halloween, where I've essentially used a lot of different MPskin features in order to gamify the entire tour. Since these types of functionalities are perfect for gamification, now as we move through this particular game, we can move forward. And here, for example, I've got little screams inside the tour. And then here, I've made it a little bit more difficult for the user to get to where they want, because here I've had a single time sweep action that bounces the user back to the original location. And seeing them go off as I navigate through the model. So here I've placed different types of sweep actions to essentially force the user to find a way to navigate to the location that they're looking to go to, because navigating onto certain sweep points is going to bounce them back to a different location. Now, this can be done by having sweep actions that contain a deep link inside them. If we look at this one here to see how it's actually set up in the back end, when we navigate to the action tab, we see that, again, the action is an external link, and we've just got a pretty plain deep link inside here. So this is, again, a great way to implement gamification. It could be, of course, for Halloween related events, but it could also be an Easter egg hunt where, for example, you can create a portal in that way. Here we also see this option that I've mentioned previously for the single action. So once again, you always have the option of choosing whether a sweep action is supposed to take place every time the user navigates onto the sweep point or just a single time. Now, this is, again, that's everything I have to say in terms of gamification. Once again, there's a lot of options when it comes to gamification with sweep actions, just because it enables you to display yeah, add different types of click actions without the user having to actually do anything or without being aware that there's going to be something on top of it. So this would also be suitable for hiding things inside a space, because you can simply put a click action on a sweep point without the user knowing that something is going to happen when they navigate on it. Now, that's, I would say, the basics when it comes to sweep actions, but there's so much more we can do with them. So here I've brought another example for you guys. So in this case, we have a tour of the old town in Bolzano. So this is where we're located at. And this tour consists of several scans. This is a scan of the entire street. And because it was not possible to facilitate the entire scan in one space, we have several spaces for the scan. And in order for the user to naturally navigate between these different spaces, I've added click actions on the ends of the streets, here, 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 and here. So the user is easier able to navigate to the next space and essentially have more of a feeling that it is a connected project. In order to do this, all we need to do is, once again, select an external link click action. But then instead of having a deep link from the same tour, we simply add a deep link to the next space to it. And now if we look at what this looks like, this is the tour itself. So as you can see, it's of the entire street. And as we navigate through the model, we're able to see here, for example, we've also added an additional way to connect these streets by placing virtual staging objects on them. But as I navigate towards this, you're going to see that it jumps to the next street. So this, again, is a great way to also connect spaces to each other without the user having to actually click on anything, because the user might not see from just the panoramas that the tour is ending in that location. And then here, once again, we've got the connection to the next, to the previous street. So this is another great use case for sweep actions, especially if you've got larger spaces that are connected to each other. And another way that you can use sweep actions, here I've brought another example of a trade fair. So this is a trade fair hall here in Bolzano again. And as we are able to link deep links onto a sweep action, some of you might already know we've come out with a feature a couple months ago that's called the Web Wayfinder. And in just the same way that we can add deep links onto a sweep action, we can also add deep links with a wayfinding parameter onto them. So if I navigate onto this location here, I've added these virtual staging items on top of it to ensure that the user knows what's going to happen. So here, if I move forward, you're going to see that the Web Wayfinder starts. And now, if I just follow it, it's going to navigate me, in this case, to Hall B of this exposition venue. So this is another use case for sweep actions. And by combining these sweep actions with virtual staging items, it just makes it that much easier for the user to actually see where they're going to be going. And the same principle works for all of them. So once again, another great way of making use of sweep actions, especially when you combine them with virtual staging items. You can also see that this is an additional feature we've released not long ago. there's a setting that allows you to ensure that these items that I've virtually staged always face the user. So as I'm rotating around here, they always face me nicely without, me seeing them awkwardly from the side. So once again, this is just one of the many opportunities that MPskin would give you in terms of enhancing your tour. All right. Now, one last use case that I don't have a demo for, but I think by now you guys probably understand the basic logic when it comes to sweep actions, especially in combination with deep links, is for highlight reels. Now, say you have a space similar to the one we've viewed previously of the Old Town in Bolzano, and you would like to create a highlight reel that kind of goes across all the different spaces in one go. This can also be done with sweep actions by simply placing a sweep action on the last point that the highlight reel from the starter tour goes on to jump the user to the next space. We've had a user that has done this in the case of a hospital ship, where he's done several scans for each individual deck of the ship because it was too large to fit into one space. And by using this type of mechanism, he was able to create essentially a highlight reel, a guided tour that goes across 10 different types of scans, essentially always landing on the last, the last scan point in the guided tour, triggering the sweep action that jumps it onto the next tour, and then having the highlight reel auto start for the next tour. So this way, you can create connected guided tours for several spaces as well. Again, just one of the many possibilities you guys have with sweep actions. All right. I think that about sums up the different types of sweep action options that we have. So once again, going over it once more, we see all of these different options here. So it could be a text photo, it could be a media gallery, so different types of media within one pop-up. Video, audio, of course, audio great for audio guides in museums as well. It could be a PDF, panorama image, of course, external link, and then with the HTML option, that kind of gives us a broad, range of functionalities to our availability if we have any kind of code that we would like to display in that spot. And additionally, virtual staging. This is what we've seen at the very start, where we've had the green screen video showing and playing as soon as the user navigates onto that space. And the last option would be a tag. So the tag option essentially allows you to display any kind of tag content that's already inside the tour as soon as the user lands onto that sweep point. So here, if I look at the selection, this is where I get all the different types of tags. So this would again be a way to automatically open a tag, for example, as the user navigates into a certain area. This is handy, especially if you have important information that you would like to pass on to the user that they should definitely see, even if they don't decide to actively click on a tag to see that information. So those are all the different types of options that you get via using sweep actions. And I really think it's a very powerful and handy feature, especially for cultural sites, but also for training sites, training purposes, and then, of course, gamification. Like I showed just earlier. All right. I think that about sums it up when it comes to the functionalities of sweep actions. So now we can start the questions round. If anybody has a specific question, I'm happy. Both Norbert and me are here today to answer any questions. Let me know. You may unmute yourself now, of course. Is it possible to make an invisible virtual staging item appear triggered by a sweep action? So in principle, technically, it's not possible by default within MPskin, but what you can do is, well, this is what I've done in the case of the green screen video, is I've simply added green screen at the very end of the video, which essentially makes it so that when the green screen remover is used, the video disappears once it's been triggered. The issue with making virtual staging objects visible and invisible inside a model is that it's quite resource intense in terms of the resources that have to be used by the computer in order to fade in and fade out such objects. It is definitely a feature that we would like to see come in the future. But at the moment, with virtual staging 3D models, it is not possible. Just the sweep action or the action that's been added onto the model itself, that will be triggered as soon as the user navigates onto the virtual staging sweep action. Let me see. Evan is asking a question. You're asking if we have a tutorial. So we do have a tutorial for it actually. In general, I would also advise to check out the website because at the bottom of each of our feature overviews on the website, we have a small FAQ section that typically lists a bunch of the most common questions when it comes to sweep actions. But we also have a tutorial for this. Let me just show you where it can be found. I can also actually post it if you prefer. So let me just get that for you. English tutorial, there we go. I'm going to share it here inside the chat. But you can also find it on the website in the tutorials tab here, or just by going onto the MPskin YouTube channel, you will be able to find it. It is a brief tutorial. Oh, but yeah, we do have it online here. So if you would like to check out, at your own pace after this webinar, then you can do that. Just in case someone is unsure about how to go about the combination of wayfinding and sweep actions. So you can see here, when we go back to this example that I've just shown you, you can see that I've placed the virtual staging items to kind of indicate where the sweep action itself starts. And in order to use this type of feature, you do not need to enable wayfinding in general for the entire tour. But what I've done is I've simply added the deep link. And instead of adding just the deep link, I've added the wayfinding parameter here at the very end. So for those that are already familiar with the feature, we have a web wayfinder in MPskin. And you can enable it in different ways. It can be enabled by default for specific deep links or categories within the menu, but it could also be activated with just a URL parameter at the very end of a deep link. So this is what I've done here. This is the wayfinding URL parameter that I've added at the end of this deep link. And by just having that as a click action, it automatically starts. This works with and without sweep actions. Just in this case, I've wanted to make it a little bit easier for the user to understand what's happening. Yeah. So this is how the wayfinder can be started. All right. Well, I think today was a very brief one, but I do think it is a very easy to understand feature in terms of how it works. And once again, like I always like to say with MPskin, you're always only limited by your own creativity and the things that you can come up with to do with this type of feature. But I really think it's a feature that I don't see a lot of people making use of, and that really adds a lot of interactive and kind of emotion to the tour. The most common use case I see is people having it, again, in combination with a green screen video to greet someone as they're entering the tour. So I remember one user had like a cafe type of scan. And as soon as the user moved inside of the cafe, there was the cafe's owner standing behind the counter, recording a brief video with a welcome message, telling the visitor, what's all available in the space or in the restaurant, in the real life location. And then, yeah, that just adds that little bit more character to the tour and gives it a little bit more emotion. I'm seeing Norbert reminded me of an additional thing that I haven't mentioned just yet, which is that you can use sweep points as a group as well. So you can add several scan points to a sweep action. I think I'm using this here in this case. So here, for example, I wanted to ensure that if the user lands on any of these 5 scan points here, the sweep action takes place. So again, you're not limited to having a sweep action on just one specific scan point, but it could also be a whole group of scan points. This is something that might come in handy if you've got a museum, for example. Like if I wanted to add a new one onto several sweep points here, I'm just selecting it, and then I can select as many sweep points as I like. And as I just said, in the case of a museum, this would be useful if there are several ways to access the room and you want to ensure that an audio file and audio guide automatically starts no matter from which direction the user navigates inside the space. So if I did it like this, I would have a sweep action that starts if the user goes onto any of these sweep points. All right. I think I even have an example for this. One of my older tours that I used to use for demonstration purposes was the Ripa Museum, where we can actually see this on a more kind of realistic floor plan in terms of how it would look. So I think it is here. Yeah. So here, for example, you could see that, the visitor can enter this room, for example, from both sides. And if I wanted to add, say, an audio guide to all these sweep points, I could click on all of these and ensure that the sweep action takes place no matter from which direction the user comes in. And then once again, just to remind you guys, you've got the option of selecting whether or not you want the click action to take place as a single action, so just once or several times, meaning every time the user lands onto these sweep points. All right. Okay. I think that's probably about it for today. I don't see any more questions, so I'm not going to hold you guys here any longer. I hope that everybody has a great afternoon or day if it's still early in the day for you, and a great weekend, of course. If you guys have any questions about MPskin or about sweep actions in particular, feel free to reach out to me directly or to Norbert. You can find both of our details here on the support page. You can reach me at mia@mpskin.com, or you can reach Norbert at info@mpskin.com. We're always available to answer any of your questions. And of course, if someone would like, we can also do a one-on-one via Zoom. Yeah, thank you so much for your attention, everybody. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and hopefully until the next time. Take care. Bye.